It was an ordinary evening as I stepped onto the subway, lost in the monotony of my daily commute. The carriage was moderately filled, with passengers engaged in their books, phones, and private thoughts. I found a spot near the door and settled in, ready for the uneventful journey ahead. As the train began to move, I glanced around, a habit of mine, observing the faces and the mundane details of my fellow commuters. That's when I first noticed something odd. The woman sitting across from me was staring directly at me, her smile wide and unsettling. Initially, I thought nothing of it, assuming she was lost in thought or perhaps found something amusing on her phone. But then the unsettling feeling grew. I looked away, trying to focus on my phone, but the sensation of being watched was overwhelming. I lifted my gaze again, and to my horror, I realized that now everyone in the carriage was looking at me. Their expressions were eerily similar, wide, unblinking eyes, and unnaturally broad smiles frozen on their faces. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to convince myself that it was a prank or a coincidence, but the intensity of their stares said otherwise. None of them spoke or moved. They just kept smiling and staring. Panic began to rise in me. I thought to escape to another carriage, but as I stood up, the train plunged into a tunnel, casting us all into semi-darkness. The flickering lights of the carriage cast ghostly shadows, making the scene even more surreal and terrifying. As the lights flickered, their smiles seemed to grow wider, more grotesque. It was as if they were not human anymore, but something else, something sinister. I felt trapped, every instinct in me screaming to get away. I moved towards the door, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I did, they all stand up and turn their heads in unison, following my every move while maintaining those grotesque smiles. It was like a scene from a nightmare. The train slowed as it approached the next station. I readied myself to bolt out of the doors as soon as they opened. But just as the train came to a stop and the doors slid open, the lights went out completely, plunging us into darkness. In the blackness, I could hear a faint, collective whisper, like a hiss, coming from all around me. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound was chilling. I stumbled out onto the platform, not looking back, driven by pure fear. Once out of the carriage, I turned to see if they would follow, but the lights inside the train flickered back on, and everything was back to normal. The passengers were moving, talking, no longer staring or smiling at me. It was as if nothing had happened. I stood there on the platform, shaking, unable to comprehend what I had just experienced. Was it a hallucination, a trick of the mind? I didn't wait to find out. I left the station as fast as I could, vowing never to take the tube again late at night. But even now, I can't shake the feeling that what happened was real, and sometimes, when it's quiet, I swear I can hear that faint, sinister whisper, echoing in the back of my mind. Riding the tube home from work was a routine part of my daily life. It was a familiar journey, one I could almost do with my eyes closed. But one evening, everything changed, turning my routine ride into something I would never forget. The train was unusually crowded that day. People were packed like sardines, and I found myself squeezed next to a woman wearing a red coat. She seemed like any other passenger at first glance, but there was something about her that felt off. She stood silently, her eyes never leaving the grimy floor of the carriage. As the train rattled along, I heard a faint whisper. It was so soft that I thought my ears were playing tricks on me. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. "Help me," the voice murmured. It took me a moment to realize it was coming from the woman in the red coat. I leaned in a little closer, trying to catch more of her words. "Help me, please," she repeated, her voice barely above a breath. I glanced at her, wanting to ask if she was okay, but her gaze remained fixed downwards, ignoring my presence. With each stop, the train grew less crowded, but the woman stayed put, continuing her soft, haunting pleas for help. Eventually, it was just the two of us left in the carriage. Her whispers became more desperate, more urgent. "Help me, please." I mustered the courage to speak to her. "Do you need help?" I asked. But she gave no response, no sign that she had even heard me. Then, in the blink of an eye, she vanished. One moment she was there, and the next she was gone. I looked around, bewildered and alone in the carriage. Yet her whispers lingered in the air, a ghostly echo that sent chills down my spine. As the train pulled into my stop, I hurried off, eager to leave the unnerving experience behind. I glanced back one last time, half expecting to see her reappear, but the carriage was empty. The following day, talking with one of the underground staff, I heard a story that sent a wave of dread through me. Many years ago, a woman had killed herself on the specific line. When she jumped under the train, she was wearing a red coat, exactly like the woman I had seen. No one knew why she did it, but it was said that passengers occasionally heard her whispers, pleading for help. From that day on, my routine tube rides were never the same. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see the woman in the red coat. Her haunting whispers stayed with me, a chilling reminder of the encounter. The experience left me with more questions than answers. Was she a ghost, trapped in a perpetual state of seeking help? Or had my mind played a trick on me? Whatever the truth, the memory of the woman in the red coat and her mysterious disappearance haunted me on every tube ride thereafter. I always thought there was something eerie about taking the sub late at night, but nothing could have prepared me for the chilling experience I had one fateful evening. It was just past midnight, and the usually bustling station was deserted. The only sounds were the faint rustlings of newspapers and the distant hum of the city above. I stood alone on the platform, the sense of isolation growing as time ticked by. Finally, with a rumble that echoed through the empty station, the train arrived. Its lights sliced through the darkness, and I quickly stepped inside, eager to escape the unsettling atmosphere of the platform. As I settled into a seat, the train began to move. The carriage was eerily empty, enhancing the sense of unease that had been building inside me. I tried to distract myself by watching the dark tunnels race past the window, but a creeping sense of dread wouldn't leave me. As we approached the next station, I noticed something deeply unsettling. The platform was engulfed in darkness, not a soul in sight. What was even more disturbing was that as the train slowed, I saw a lone figure standing on the platform. He was motionless, staring straight at the train. A chill ran down my spine. Why would anyone stand alone on a deserted platform in the dead of night? But that was just the beginning. As we moved from station to station, each platform presented the same eerie scene: darkness, abandonment, and a solitary figure, their gaze following the train. My heart began to race with fear. This couldn't be a coincidence. The situation escalated into something truly terrifying. As the train continued its journey, I realized that the figures weren't just confined to the platforms. They began appearing inside the carriage with me. One by one, they materialized, standing silently, their eyes fixed on me. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to cry out or move. Then, just as the last figure appeared, the train came to a screeching halt. I was thrown forward from my seat, my head striking the seat in front. Dazed, I slowly looked up, only to find that the carriage was empty once more. The figures had vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared. The lights flickered back on, and I realized we had reached my destination. I stumbled out of the train, my legs weak and my mind reeling. Glancing back, I saw that the carriage was still empty, a ghostly echo of what had just occurred. Later, I discovered a terrifying piece of the tube's history. Many years ago, there had been a catastrophic accident on this very line. Just before the crash, passengers had reported seeing figures in the carriages, similar to what I had experienced. They were believed to be the spirits of those who lost their lives in that tragedy. Having escaped unscathed, the memory of that night haunted me for a long time. The silent, staring figures who appeared and disappeared without a trace left a deep impact on me. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had encountered the lingering souls of a forgotten disaster. From that night onwards, I avoided late-night tube rides. The fear of coming face to face with those apparitions again was overwhelming. It was a stark reminder of the unseen, mysterious forces that can lurk in the shadows, echoing tragedies of the past in the silent, dark tunnels of the tube.